Hello guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Piotr here, and this is the market update for Light Forex Global YouTube channel, 17th of February 2020. Without a further delay, let's go straight into the charts. Okay, nothing extraordinary when it comes to the calendar today. We had just a preliminary GDP price index out of Japan, 1.3 versus 1.1 expectations, but preliminary GDP, huge hit, minus 1.6, where the expectations were minus 1. Previous one revised higher to 0.4. So that's not the great news when it comes to the Japan, but actually Japanese yen is holding well. That's the daily chart of the dollar yen, and we are still holding very important levels, if you remember what we discussed previously. So let me briefly describe that again for you. Okay, so if you remember, for quite some time when we were here, right below 109.50, I've been looking to sell short the dollar yen. Then we had a little bit of the upside, which has been rejected, right? And now we're trying again. So from the bulls perspective, of course, the latest Japanese data that's not giving the helping hand to the sellers, and looks like it might be the case that as long as we are staying above 109.50, right? Because it's not an accident, right? This was the same similar when we were 100 pips lower, right? As you can see here, 108.50. Plenty of times the levels were working well, we're working in a favor. Depends of course on which side we've been. So right here, right now, we have very similar situation with 109.50, right? It's almost very similar. So we've been above once, we failed and moved lower. Now we're trying again. Okay, so taking into the consideration positive news from China that this bounce on the stocks, we might see, with the lack of liquidity because of the US today, we might see some kind of manipulation to the upside, and in that case we might see market may want to get back above 110. If that's gonna be the case, we might see attempt to look for a liquidity towards 110.70, and we might see market closing the gap over here, meaning that we might see levels towards 111 or right above. That's positive scenario. And switching lower, looking for a possibility to try to join that party, right? What I would like to see, I would like to see market going a little bit higher from here, taking out Friday high, right? Taking out Friday high, then pulling back, and I would look for possibility to buy around 109.85, right? But I would like to see first we are taking out the Friday high, and then I would eventually, from the bulls perspective, right, once this one is taken out, I would look for some kind of the pullback and eventually continuation higher towards 100, 110. You know, when it comes to the dollar yen, that's the only pair for me where I've been looking to try to sell the dollar. So let's have a look what kind of the chances are on the bear side. And to be honest with you, as long as we are staying above the weekly open, well, not that many, right? Those two lower shadows we've seen lately. All right, that's what right here working in a favor of the bulls, taking into the consideration I'm sorry, this latest weakness. All right, so as a bear, I would rather want to see market closing first thing first, below the weekly open, then below Thursday low, right, and then below previous Friday low, right? So in that case, I would like to see market moving below 109.50, right? So in that case, a little bit of the patience is needed from the bear's perspective, right? Let's try to wait and see if the bulls really will take over here. Anyway, nothing extraordinary, as I mentioned, when it comes to the calendar today. Then there is a bank holiday in US. It's gonna be a little bit more exciting tomorrow, all right? During the Asian hours, we do have the monetary policy meeting out of the Australia. So let's have a look briefly what we have from the Australian dollar perspective. Let's have a look what we have from the Australian dollar perspective. Well, the previous week was quite okay. We were able to make the close. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We were able to manage and close above the quite important level. We are trading currently 67.28, so we are trading above 67 right here, right now. So all those things are positive now from the buyer's perspective, but of course taking into the consideration this aggressive move to the downside, right? Taking into the consideration what happened 3 weeks ago, the lowest close, all right? Then the 2 weeks ago, upper shadow, week ago, upper shadow. I'm very curious, right? What we might see here. Think no change here when it comes to the Australian dollar, and I think that 67, 65, 68, 67, 65, and then 30 pips higher towards 68, the whole zone as a supply, and that's why as you can see here we have these upper shadows. Well, let's have a look what we have from the daily chart perspective. That's very similar thing, right? So as long as we are below 68, all right, looks like the bears may want to try to push Australian dollar lower, right? So as of now, I see the sellers towards 68, right? Maybe a little bit above 68, and looking for a possibility to break below the latest low. On the other hand, so the sellers towards the 68, maybe a little bit above 68, and the buyers from the daily chart perspective down towards 66.85, 66.65. That's how I see the things at the beginning of the week on the Australian dollar. Also tomorrow we are going to have a job market out of the UK and the German ZEF index. When it comes to the German ZEF index, looks like the market is expecting lower number, and I do expect continuation to the downside on the euro dollar. That's the thing. So let's have a look what we have from the daily chart perspective. Horrible chart. The thing is that they even didn't bounce towards the way I would like to see them. So levels close to 109. That's the selling. That's the selling levels for me for now, right? That's what we've seen on Tuesday attempt to bounce, and then eventually if we are going to see them higher, so then again around 109, 109.90. I'm very bearish while we are below 110, right? That's what we've been talking about. But of course, don't forget that once we are going to close this post-French election gap, some kind of the bounce eventually is possible, but I'm not gonna put my money on that. So I'm looking to sell euro dollar on Riley's either towards 109. If I'm gonna think which way I want to approach that pair, but overall, as long as we are below 110, I'm bearish here. Wednesday, another Australian data, wage price index, and another data out of the UK. So tomorrow in UK we have job market, but on Wednesday we have the CPI. I've been short pound and been wrong previous week. That's what I have to say clearly. I did some heavy liquidation towards the end of the week, stayed a little bit short on the pound, and let me briefly explain you. Well, the size of the move the previous week, especially the close, right? That was the reason I've been liquidating my shorts on the pound partially. It was the move, like, you know, we covered 50% of the previous week drop, right? But we still below the level we've seen 3 weeks ago. All right, so the previous week Riley didn't quite get above, so 30-50 line in the sand, I don't want to see them going higher. So tomorrow is a job market and Wednesday is the CPI, and I'm going to watch this CPI very carefully, because that's gonna be probably the pound driver here. Later on Wednesday during the US session we have the good package from the US, some housing data, and then towards the evening we do have FOMC meeting minutes. Thursday again Australian data, this time is a job market, again UK data, this time is a retail sales, and Friday is gonna be PMI. We are going to go back into the calendar when it comes to the second part of the week, once we are getting closer. Looks like Australian dollar and pound might be in focus this week, and of course US dollar here. Guys, don't be trapped. It was my pleasure to talk to you this morning. Don't forget, US is on bank holiday, lower liquidity. Don't be trapped. Guys, have a great rest of the day. Take care and goodbye.